Good evening. My name is Jim Kello. Welcome to New Tracks Meetup, where mentors help modelers build. Thanks so much for coming. Hope you'll enjoy the show. Hope you'll tell your friends about it. If you're new to the show, please register at our website, newtracksmodeling.com. And when you get the confirmation email, don't forget to reply to it to make sure that you're totally registered. Also, please notify your friends. You'll get an email from the website notifying you about each one of our shows and giving you the Zoom logins. Why don't you just pass the Zoom login to your friends? We have no problem with you doing that. We just don't want you to post it on a Facebook or any digital media for security reasons. But sending it to your friends and seeing if they'd be interested in joining us, we encourage you to do that. We need a lot of help to run the program. We have about 8 people now helping us, and we could probably use at least twice that many. We've got various jobs to do. Most of them are fairly small. And we can give you some training to make sure you understand it. And we hope that you can offer us just a little bit of your time, because it is a real job to keep doing this twice a week, and we definitely need some help from you. Now I'd like to go to Chris Course to talk about the My Bills for the show. The next one that we have coming up is May the 29th. Chris, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Finally got in.
Great.
For those that are interested in participating in the My Build, I'll put my my email address in the chat here, and you can drop me those. What actually I think would work best is if you send me your pictures, and what I will do is I'll put together a slideshow, and when it comes to your turn, I'll call on you. So we'll go ahead and pull up those photos, and you can talk directly to the slides. I think that's the best way that's going to work. It'll keep us flowing a little bit. I've already got 3 or 4 different people that have said that they're interested and have sent me information. So if you could go ahead and please continue to do that, or drop me a message in the chat. That will help put together the My Build in an orderly fashion. And I know Jim has some. I think for the Bar Mills kit, there's a $25 raffle for anybody that shows off what they've done with the My Build, or with the Bar Mills 1 kit. And then what we're going to try to do is we'll concentrate on getting through the previous build-alongs, and we'll go through theirs. And then once we're done with that, we'll go on to other items. Maybe something you scratch built, whatever. Doesn't even have to be a building. It could be a locomotive. Hey, I built this great locomotive. I want to show it off. Now, then that's a good time to do it. So anyway, if you people are interested in participating, yes, I did forget part of my email address. So I'll go ahead and put that back up, and the correct email address, that is. And I'll turn it back over to Jim.
I think we're all a little steak big tonight, but we're getting there, slow but sure. Paul Thompson sent me an email not too long ago saying that he had a family issue and he's not going to be able to be here tonight. But Ted Becker is here tonight, and he's going to fill in for Paul for the quick tip of the evening. Ted, thanks so much for doing this on such short notice.
No problem. Glad to help out. I'm going to share my screen, and okay. What you see here is, excuse me. What you see is a couple things I made with foam core. On the left is a little tray I use for storage stuff. On the right is a building mock-up I made. And I want to point out the difference in the corners. You notice, I don't know if you can see my little hand there. You notice this corner is the raw edge. But on this corner over here, in spite of the sloppy glue job, you can see that the paper meets nicely at the corner. And how I do that is with this tool. It's called a balsa stripper. Um, it's made by a company named Master Air Screw. Micromark has them. Horizon Hobbies has them. Any hobby supplier that deals with model airplanes stuff has them. As you can see, it's screw adjustable for the width of the cut. I find it very useful for a lot of other stuff in model railroading, cutting strips of masking tape. You can even cut strips of basswood, styrene. Anyhow, for this application, you set the width of the cut to the thickness of the foam core. Then you set the depth of the blade to about, I don't know, about 3/4 of the way through the foam core. And you can adjust the depth a little bit by the way you move it. You can't see the cut very well here. I was in a hurry. Jim emailed me and I put this together in about 15 minutes, so excuse me. Anyhow, then what I do after I cut through the paper with the balsa stripper, I take an X-Acto knife and cut through the foam. Then take a chisel blade, clean it out down to the paper. Don't gouge the paper, just slice the foam off. If you buy the cheap foam core, the Dollar Tree stuff, or you can get the same stuff for 88 cents at Walmart. The foam strips off the paper a little easier on that foam core. The little better quality foam core that you get at the craft stores doesn't peel off as easy, but it's still quite doable. And then you just do this lap joint. You use whatever glue you like to use. I use Tight Bond 2 yellow glue a lot. I've used hot glue. Doesn't matter, but you just overlap the paper over the end of the other foam core. It gives you a nice strong joint. If you're doing something like the building mock-up, you can cut to the size you want. You don't have to compensate for the thickness of the foam core, so it works out to your final result works out to be the exact size you started with. So it's a very handy way to do foam core. Makes nice, neat, strong joints, and that's my tip for today.
Well, on short notice, I think you did an outstanding job, and I think that was an important tip.
Well, I've got to confess that, I was on the hook to do this for the last Wednesday of the month. I think you had asked me to.
Yep.
And so I had the idea in my head. All I had to do was get some pictures taken. So I was halfway there.
Well, thanks so much, kid. We appreciate it.
So you say you want me to do it again Wednesday?
Yeah, because Paul's not sure that he's going to be back from his family issues. So if you don't mind, I appreciate it.
I'll fill in for him. I'll have something ready.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
Now I'd like to go to Andy Kinney. Andy's got a special guest with him tonight to talk about the OPSIG. And I think this is really an important organization for you to be familiar with if you've never heard of it before. So Andy, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Gotta unmute myself. Okay, thank you, Jim. For this month, Eric Smith kindly offered to put a program on, a short program on the Ops SIG, the Operations Special Interest Group. And Eric is editor of the OPSIG quarterly journal, the Dispatcher's Office. He's also on the board of the OPSIG, or the Operations Special Interest Group. And he's building a railroad called the North Star Subdivision, a proto-freelance portion of the Canadian Pacific Railway. So Eric, I'll hand it over to you, and thank you kindly for coming.
Thanks, Andy. I appreciate the intro. Like I said, my name is Eric Smith, here representing the OPSIG. I've been involved with this as a member for, I'm not even sure how long, at least 10 plus years, probably closer to 15 or longer. Got into model rate operations as a member of the Purdue Railroad Club at Purdue University. One of the it's had some fairly famous alumni come out of it, including John Armstrong, Tony Custer, and others. So that's kind of where I first learned about it. And the best way to describe it is it's a niche within a niche, right? Model railroading is definitely a niche hobby, and realistic operations is a niche within that group. But if I can share this real quick. So the Operations SIG is a NMRA official special interest group focusing on how to do realistic model railroad operations. And this doesn't just mean what was called TT&TO, timetable and train order. There are lots of other types of ways to operate your railroad, and we encourage all of it. Whether you're a beginner, just trying to figure out, okay, how can I get past something where I'm just circle burning to the most complex operational schemes like you might see on some of the, let's say, the grandmasters of the hobby, like Bruce Chubb, or the portion of Ellen McClellan's railroad that still lives at the Deepwater District in Cincinnati. So we encourage all of it. And all of that helps to promote model railroading as a whole, right? If you give your trains something to do, they're a lot more interesting to operate. As far as benefits, the journal that Andy mentioned is called the Dispatcher's Office. This picture here is the last issue that we produced. They come out every quarter, have been for the past at least 20 years. They've been January, April, July, and October. It's full color magazine. You can get it in both digital and print quality. And if you either get a digital or a print subscription, you actually have access to our entire 30-year back catalog of all of the issues. We added that recently to the website as a benefit for membership. So you can go back all the way back to issue number 1. As far as member benefits, we maintain a member directory. You can obviously opt in and out of that. We do have an event calendar. Obviously, COVID has kind of leveled the, getting together and operating trains, but now that things are starting to loosen back up, there is at least 2 big events that I'm aware of coming up. These operations weekends that we describe. The one we're planning in Indianapolis, there will be a 3-hour session on Friday night, 2 3-hour sessions on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. We jokingly call them Ops Till You Drop. They're a lot of fun. We even have in our area a 1/8 scale, or 1/8. I think it's a 7.5 inch track outdoor layout. So not only are you operating the trains, but you're actually having to ride there to do the switching of the cars. It's a lot of fun. We also have a railroad directory, and this is all for members. You can publicize your railroad, take pictures, and that's all part of the website. As far as outreach, obviously our purpose is to try to get other people into model railroad operations. So one of the things that we started Probably, actually, it was last Easter, actually, a year ago Easter, is our virtual meetup. This is every other Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. This is open to the public. We record them, put them up on YouTube for people, obviously trying to find a time for everybody around the world to get together is tough. But we've had a lot of success with this. If you're interested, you can go to opsig.org/virtual and see when our next event is. It's actually tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. We have a Facebook page. We put lots of operational, pictures of operating sessions, pictures of operational railroads, pretty much anything operations related you can find there at facebook.com/Operations SIG. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Operations SIG, has all of the recordings of our previous virtual meetups. There's also a tutorial up there that I did for, I think it was the southeastern region of the NMRA, on sort of an introduction to operations, if that's something that interests you. We go through all of these real easy ways to start adding some operations to your railroad. There are lots of industry resources, tutorials. All of that is available for free at opsig.org. Another site that's related, not officially sponsored by OpSig, but something I put together, is called operatingsessions.com. This is a separate site where if you're hosting an operating session or you want to go to one, you can sign up here and you'll get notified of operating sessions in your area. You can go through, see all the railroads that are registered, and most of, the vast majority of them are looking for new people to come operate. So it's a good way to kind of get your toes into the hobby. As far as I'll throw this out as an offer for the group or for people that's watching. If you'd like to get a digital free copy of the last issue, all you need to do is send an email to editor@opsig.org, and I'd be happy to send you a copy. Obviously, if you're already a member, well, you already got it. So, well, like I said, I think we're doing a lot of things to help promote the hobby of model railroading in general and operations and specifically, and love to have you join. With that, I'll stop my share and turn it back to Andy.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that, Eric. Does anybody have any questions for Eric before I turn it back to Jim?
And do you have to belong to the NMRA to belong to the OpSig?
NMRA membership is suggested, but it is not required to join the OpSig. NMRA, let's just say of late, there have been some political things that have caused people to not want to join the NMRA. We encourage it, but it is not required.
If I'm a new modeler, as far as operations is concerned, I've heard a lot about it, but I got a small model railroad. I don't have a gigantic thing. Why should I be interested in the OpSig?
Well, the OpSig is out there to, I started with a 4x8 sheet of plywood, loop around the outside. And after a little while, as a 7 or 8 year old kid, I got bored with it. The trains just kind of went round and round. They didn't really do anything. Operations adds a couple of different things to the hobby of model railroading. Now, obviously, if your layout, there are some gorgeous layouts that are really mostly for display. People are really focused on the details of it, the modeling aspect, and none of this takes away from that. And please don't misunderstand me in that. However, a lot of people, adding operations gives you a couple of different things as benefits. One, it's social. We make jokes about how, especially, this is a male-dominated hobby. men, especially as they get older, tend not to have friends, right? They have people. I mean, it's, you know, it's, and so having a operational model railroad, you have a group of people that are coming to your house or to your building or your club to get together to run trains. That gives you a social aspect to it. There is the idea of almost like a puzzle mentality. We talk about, you know, as people are aging, keeping your brain active is just as important as physical activity. The idea of, okay, and it doesn't have to be, you know, the dreaded time saver layout that everybody seems so fond of. You know, it's like, okay, I'm pulling my train into one of the towns on Andy's layout. I need to put 3 cars on that track. I need to put 2 over here, and I need to pick up 3 of them here. There's a puzzle aspect to that, right? And it's not mean, it's not difficult. It's just something you have to figure out how to do. And depending on the type of layout and the size of the layout, it can be anything from, okay, well, when you come into this town, you've got 2 cars. Okay, leave the 2 cars and pick up the ones that are there. All the way up to, okay, you need to find Southern Pacific boxcar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that's going to be on this track, and it needs to be this place in your train. It just gives you a wide variety of things to do. And as a new modeler, 4x8 sheets of plywood are not the best, are not necessarily the best option. You can do a lot more in terms of operations if you split that 4x8 sheet of plywood into 4 1x8 sheets and do like a switching layout. You can have a lot more operations with that. And it's just the idea that, you know, get beyond the 4x8 sheet of plywood, give your trains something to do, and it will provide a lot. I think it provides a lot more enjoyment to what you're building. You know, there's a reason for that industry there. There's a reason for that track to be there. And let's say Jim Murphy is asking questions. Does OPSIG have a plan or program to work towards the AP dispatcher certificate? Jim, we've actually, just in the last issue, there was an article on, we've done this several times, on people's journey towards chief dispatcher. They kind of talk about what did they put together with their railroad. You know, how did they achieve how did they get the certificate? So we've definitely promoted that in the past. We've done it, like I said, that just came out in the April issue, and I know we've had one other article about that. Does that answer your question, Jim?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight.
All right, well, I appreciate it. Like I said, if you'd like a free copy of the April issue, just email editor@opsig.org, and I'd be happy to provide that for you. Thanks for your time.
I'm all set, Jim, if you are.
I am. Is that all you got?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Andy. It was a great idea. I really appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Now I'd like to turn to Bob Farquhar for his build along with the Blair Line kit. And Bob, this is your last session for this build along, is it not?
It is.
I'll turn it over to you, sir.
All righty. Okay. So yeah, this is the last one. This is going to be roofing and the little details we get a little later. So sorry, go back to here again. The edge of this roof, he's painting it white. Mine I did black. It doesn't really matter. It's how you want to do it. This is like a rolled roofing, what it looks like, with a tin ridge cap along there. Generally, my building, I do not use the roofing material from the kit. Generally, I do something else, make the kit look different. And but in this case, because this was a build along with that kit, I did use it. So what I did, these are the 2 roof pieces in here, and these little slots in here. This goes to the front of the front wall, and this goes to the rear wall. There's a cutout for the chimney on both of these. There's a porch roof here, and there's sorry, this is the porch roof, and this is the shed roof. I just painted it the brown, and you don't get to see underneath that the building very often. The roof you won't see, but I did anyway. And then I did the black edge along through the edge of the roof. So this is on the instruction manual. There's the peel and stick roofing, and a diagram of what goes where, and it'll tell you. This is the ridge along through here. This is a cutout for the chimney. This goes around the chimney. I'll show that later. These two here are for the shed roof, and these two here are for the porch roof. And so what I did, I took that sheet of paper that comes with the kit, took grimy black in this case, and just with a brush, just wiped it across here. There's the effect I got when it dried. Now, there's a little tab joining each end of these along here. So you want to cut at the end tab here. Excuse me, what the blurry photo. So now the other thing I didn't, and a couple things for this has been made so all the pieces they provide on the kit, they're exact size for the roofing. So there's no room or no material left over to bend over the end and so on. That's one of the reasons I do my own, but in this case I went this way anyway. And the other thing I don't care for, the sizing of this doesn't look right in here, but I went along with it anyway because that was in the instructions. So when you attach with now you got the roofing, the rolled roofing on there, or you can, for an example, you might want to go with corrugated siding or rib seam roofing. There's different materials you can use, and also Randall Bosher last week was talking about using this textured paint on paper. That would be another effect that you could use there. So this front wall, this is the supporting the back wall, and that's what it looks like on here. I did paint that white later. So there's a little tab comes up here and one there, and then the roof attached. So you glue the roof to that edge along through here. So as I said before, this is the diagram for what goes where. So that looked like it's a tin roof, a tin roof cap. So I just painted a light green, gray to do that. So what I did, this is when I first painted the whole sheet, and then went back and painted this part light gray. But there's a dividing line in the middle of that. So if you go back here, there's actually a dividing line on the piece. So what I did is I put my rule along one half of it, use a straight edge, and then picked up the edge here, and then folded it over so that it lay down nice flat there. So getting back to this picture again, this is for the chimney. These two pieces here. So the chimney I just painted like a red and used some concrete color wash to get the effect of the mortar in the chimney. And then I use those two little black, where they call it, where's my hair? Sorry about that. Two pieces in here that goes around the chimney. So now it comes back again to the front porch roof. You've seen this picture before. There's 4 slots in here where the supporting piece goes in here. There's goes the wall, and this is the part that goes into the porch roof. 2 ways of doing this. You could put this part in here first and let it dry, and then add the roof later. I elected to do my support pieces on the roof first. Then the only thing I had to do is make sure I put it into those holes. Now, the other thing you want to do is, well, make sure these pieces do fit in those slots, because sometimes this is a little bit bigger, and I had to file mine down just a bit to get them to fit nicely. Otherwise, you're going to have a dickens of a time later. So the other thing is you want to be able to make sure that those support pieces do touch these posts. So I mentioned last week, do not glue these in place, leave them loose. Actually, it's such a tight fit in there, you don't need to glue anyway. And you can put if there's a little gap in there, you can take your fingers and force the wood or the porch support roof piece up to the roof. So, and next we're going to be doing the trim pieces, which are going to be along this roof through here. So again, not very good picture, but anyway, there's an instruction on the instruction sheet that tells you what piece goes where, and it's good that way for the instructions. So the trim piece has been added in through here. Just gives a little nicer finish to the kit. There's also the back by the shed wall as well. And now the general store sign, in my case here, this is just on the paper. Even though the paper is thick, it will bend after a little bit. So I use like a 1x3s HO scale, 1x3, and I painted them up white, and then I glued them around here to give a little frame around it to hold in place. Now, I did not need to use a support pieces behind there, little angle pieces. You could if you wanted to. I didn't bother. And unless you're going to be moving around an awful lot. Then this is on the back porch roof. They did get a little bit extra of the roofing material, so I bent it up a little bit to make sure, for along the edge of the back wall here. So there's some detail piece up in here, like some ice machine, Coke machine, a woman carrying some groceries out of the store, a couple guys talking, and somebody waving a hat to somebody. So just to finish it off a little bit, and that's pretty much it. So make sure you send a note to Chris Kors. If you're going to show partial build or complete build, send it to him at railrunner130@hotmail.com. And please put your picture of the pictures of your finished model or partially finished model to him, if you would. And that way on the May 29th, he will get you in the list. So thanks, guys. And get me out of here. There we go.
Bob, I appreciate it. I think you did a beautiful job in your presentations. And I really do thank you so much for taking the time and going through the effort of doing this for us.
Certainly.
And now I need to turn to Dave Silvernail, who's going to talk about scenery, rocks, and weathering. Dave, welcome.
Hey, Jim, I do not see Dave.
Well, Dave is not here. All right. Our featured modeler tonight is going to be me, and I'm going to be talking about the build-along. I am personally very encouraged about the build-alongs. I'm getting emails from people saying that they haven't built models in a long time, and they feel that this is a way for them to get some help if they need it, and get some encouragement if they need it. And frankly, they're not alone, and they like that. So I put together a list of all of the manufacturers and the modelers that have done it so far or who are scheduled to do it. We have 18 different small manufacturers who have signed up for the program. And I think that's outstanding because it only started in April. We have 15 different modelers who are going to build one of these manufacturers' kits. So some of the modelers are going to be doing it twice. Some manufacturers are going to be participating twice. That also is encouraging to me because if the manufacturers weren't happy with the program, they certainly wouldn't come back to want to do it again. So who are the manufacturers and who are the modelers? Because what I want to try to do tonight is see if there are manufacturers that have not committed so far that you, the viewers, would like to see me contact. I would also like to know if you, the viewers, would like to be one of the modelers doing one of the build-alongs. If you are the modeler, you get to pick the manufacturer's kit that you want to build, and I'll contact the manufacturer and talk about getting a discount from the manufacturer for the build along. If you've been following it all, you will notice that we have been almost 100% getting significant discounts from the manufacturers who have participated in the build alongs. 20-25% off of the price of a normal kit has not been unusual for these manufacturers to offer to the modelers watching this show that are participating in the build along. And I'm really encouraged by the support that we're getting from manufacturers like that. And keep in mind, this is not Bachman, this is not Atlas, these are small manufacturers. These are people that are actually producing the new products, the new kits that you want to see come to the market. So to support them, in my opinion, is something that we all ought to be interested in. So here are the manufacturers. Bar Mills, they've already had one of their kits built. Their kit was as close to scratch building as we can get. Blair Lines, Bob Farquhar just completed his build of that kit. Leadville Designs, Martin Breckfield MMR is going to be starting that one on September the 22nd. Downtown Deco, Clark Kooning MMR completed that one recently. And that was a totally different kind of kit than I've ever seen produced before. I have never been involved in building that kind of a kit. Banna Model Works is going to be built by Clark Kooning MMR again on the 16th of October of this year. We've decided on the kit. There's significant discount available, but we're not going to list the kit or the discount for Banna until closer to the October the 16th date. Hunterline starts their build May the 22nd. It's right around the corner. Those are going to be 30-minute segments on 8 different shows for Rick and Maureen Hunter to build their bridge. LaBelle Woodworking is going to have 2 build-alongs. Bill Davis is going to start one the 2nd of June, and Jim Murphy is going to do one September the 11th. And both of those are passenger cars. Paul Egret is designing a card model that Dave Rarick is going to start building on the 17th of July. And I have another one that's going to be starting, but the time and the date are going to have to be arranged later on that one. Rail scale models. Bill Davis is going to build one of their models starting October the 16th. Carolina Craftsman Kit. Greg Cassidy is going to come back and build that. And the time of that one is to be arranged. We haven't settled on a date yet because, frankly, the kit that Greg is going to build hasn't been on the market like in that in the way that it's going to be presented for Greg to build and for the audience to buy. Motrack Models. That's going to start on the 20th of October with 4 modelers. In scale is Clark Kooning. HO is Greg Cassidy. S is Bob Farquhar, and O is Phil Edholm. They're going to build the same model in the 4 different scales on the same show. Built Right Models, that's going to have to be arranged. All Nations starts the 6th of November with David Schultz, the builder of that. And this is a new product coming out from All Nations, because the new owner of All Nations just bought it from the Pope Foundation and is bringing it back to the market. Then I got an email from a modeler telling me about Genesco Electronics Company, and I've contacted them about doing a package of electronic parts that then we can get a modeler to do a build along on the show of some kind of animated something. Some signals, some lights, something. And I don't know what it'll be because I don't have a modeler and Janico has not committed yet. So we've got the 18 different kinds of manufacturers. If there is a manufacturer that I haven't named that you'd like to see on the show, please let me know. My email is jimkello1@gmail.com. If you want to be one of the modelers building one of these, let me know. Because as you can see, we're getting close to filling up the dates because I don't want to have two my builds or two of the build-alongs on the same night. So I've got the Wednesday nights and I've got the Saturday nights. Most of the build-alongs are 4 to 6 sessions, which means on a Saturday, that's a good month per build. And the one for Hunterline is 30-minute segments for 8 weeks. So if you're interested for this year, now is the time to please let me know. So then we said, well, that sounded pretty good. I'm happy about the way that seems to be going right now. But what I'd like to know from you tonight is if you're happy about it. If you have some ideas that you'd like to talk about to improve them, to make them better from your standpoint, what would you like to see done differently? And how can we improve it for you? So if you have any suggestions, I'd really appreciate you telling me what they are.
Jim, I guess one thing that I would be interested in the feedback for is people who are watching this, are they getting the information in a way that it helps them? You know, all of us being modelers, we're sort of a lone wolf pack because we each have developed our modeling skills on our own or with a mentor, but haven't worked as a team or anything. And so we're going to present how we build stuff, how we paint it, how we glue it, how we cut it differently. And I'm wondering, you know, after a lot of the viewers have seen different ones, if there's a way that really clicks with them, or more importantly, something that they don't understand when they see it.
I think that's great. I don't know how to get that information, but I would sure love to be able to do it. And I'm open to suggestions. However we can figure a way to do it, please let me know, because I'd love to be able to give that kind of feedback.
So I would almost argue the challenge is we've become eBay. I mean, if you think about what's happened, so it's interesting that I think the thing that's most impressive about this is you sit and you watch this wave of information and you try to pick out of that things that are interesting. So I was trying to calculate what the probability was I would actually buy that tool that I saw for doing the strip board cutting. And it's a really cool tool. I mean, I put the link up, it's $13. It's really cheap. And so it's something I probably will seriously think about buying. I think that's, so those kind of, and then the things, you know, in the kits about, okay, how do you make sure when you cut in the bar mills kit, the right way to put the corners on instead of overlapping the corners? And, you know, there are hints of having done it that are, and I think those apply. I think those are all great. I think the problem we're going to run into real quickly is just an overwhelming amount of information. It's just almost too much information. And how do you actually go back and find any of it? That's a very interesting question to think about.
Gotcha. Anybody else? All right, so then we decided, well, if the build-alongs seem to be something that the modelers are interested in, that you're interested in, why don't we do something where it doesn't require manufacturers to get involved? Why don't we do something and try to keep it simpler? Why don't we just have a segment where modelers come and say, watch me build something? This could be scratch building, kit bashing, whatever. This doesn't even have to be a complete model. It can be just, watch me try to build this. And if you've got any improvements or suggestions of better ways for me to build it, let me know right now. So I called it Watch Me Build. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 modelers that have signed up for that already. We have one modeler who's going to build a locomotive and let us watch him build it. an old lowball 060. We've got another modeler who's going to build a kit that I've never heard of called Van's Car Shop. I've never heard of those people before. So this doesn't require a manufacturer to get involved. It doesn't require a current kit. It really doesn't require you to do anything except come and show us how you're building, what your technique is, what you're building. It's kind of like the My Build, but it's really not the My Build, because what we want to see is how you actually build it. We want to see what your technique is. Now, Phil makes a point, maybe this is too much information. I don't know whether it is or not. But anyway, we've got 7 people that are willing to do that. And if any more of you are interested in that kind of thing, please again, let me know so that I can try to get you scheduled again this year, because I don't want the shows overscheduled between the build-alongs and the watch me builds and so forth. The other special segment that I've started is going to the hobby shop. Well, I got 4 hobby shops that have signed up for that. One of them is in California, Central Coast Hobbies. One of them is in North Carolina, Nick's Trains, Mainline Hobbies, and JB Trains are the 4 that I have. I frankly had never heard of any of them. I got recommended by modelers on the show that these are hobby shops that I should contact. I got another recommendation a few minutes ago from another viewer of the show about another hobby shop that he strongly recommends that I contact because of what they have for model railroaders. Now, I have 3 other hobby shops that have been recommended to me. And when I called, either I got a flat no, we're not interested, goodbye, and hung up, or they never responded to me. So whoever, I'm not going to mention the hobby shops, but the 3 modelers that recommended them, since they weren't listed in the ones that I just named, know the hobby shops that are involved. Why they're not involved, why they're not interested, why they didn't bother to reply, I have no idea. Am I going to keep chasing them? No, I'm not. I learned my lesson doing that with the train shows, because if I call, I leave a detailed message. And if they're not going to do me the courtesy of calling me back, I'm through with them. I just don't have time for people like that. So what's wrong with those hobby shops? Nothing's wrong with them. They may be doing so much business, they just don't have any time for me. I understand that. That's no problem. But if you have a hobby shop that you really think is doing an excellent job, I'd love to find out about them. I'd love to call them. I'd love to see if they're interested in coming onto the show. I'm interested in finding out from these 4 particularly why they're so interested in coming on the show, because all 4 of them were highly enthusiastic about the opportunity. And if there's something that is different about these 4 versus the other ones that have not shown any interest, then hopefully that'll come out in the shows that we're going to be doing. These 4 hobby shops, I can tell you when they're going to be on. One of them is June the 9th, and that's the one from California. Nick's Trains is the 7th of August. Mainline Trains is the 28th of July, and JB Trains is the 4th of September. So that's when they're going to be on the show. I hope that you'll attend those. And most important, I hope you'll let me know if there are other hobby shops. Now, those are the special segments that I have isolated in my mind that I think are important for us to concentrate on. Concentrate on from the standpoint of getting more modelers, building more models. If there are other areas that you think that we should be concentrating on, that you'd like to see us get involved with, please let me know, because there's no magic in this. I'm coming up with these ideas and hoping some work. And if they do, great. If they don't, then I'll abandon them. We've got the My Bill started that Chris is running for us. I'm hoping that the 29th of May, is going to be a fantastic showing of the modeling and the skills that the people watching this show are doing. I really do. I'm worried that it won't. So if it won't, well, we'll try to figure out what happened or why, and try to change the one that we've got scheduled for the June show. But right now, we're going to go with the program as we've been doing the My Bills, and then try to encourage best we can the modelers on the show to show us what they've been building and what they're modeling. So with that said, that's what I wanted to bring to your attention tonight. That's the focus in my mind for the shows. The focus in my mind is changing a little bit from the featured modeler that I started with when I first started these over a year ago now. I'm not abandoning the featured modeler, but my focus and what I really think is going to really push the show forward are things like these special segments. Because I really think if we can get more modelers involved in building them, actually building along with modelers, or seeing what modelers are actually doing, and coming forth like John did with his S-scale scratch-built bridge and showing us exactly how he's building it, like Phil has done with the one kit that he's building the hotel, and the old hotel that's not there anymore in California, using his 3D printed parts and so forth. To me, those are fantastic opportunities for the modelers watching the show to see what people are doing. One of the people that's going to do the Watch Me Build segment is I think I've mentioned this before. He's going to start us with, this is the part I want to 3D print, and this is how you have to draw it with the CAD program. And he's going to actually show us how to do it on that CAD program that he uses. And then what's involved from taking it from that CAD program and putting that document on a 3D printer. And then what he has to do to print it. And then what he has to do to clean it up. And then the finished product. Well, that's something that I personally have never seen. I don't know how the process works from taking that idea of a part through that 3D printing process. So I think all of those things are fascinating. But at the same time, there's got to be other things that you're interested in, that you would like to see us concentrate on. And if there are, I encourage you to let me know, because right now, it's these three areas that I've singled out on, as well as having the featured modeler, like we have had before, that I'm trying to concentrate on. But if there are other areas, please let me know. And if you want to participate in one of these three, please let me know that too. So I'll open it up now, and please, any comments you have, good, bad, or indifferent, please let me have them.
Jim?
Yes, sir.
I know these build-alongs are pretty good, and I've been following them. How about some handout sheets or something that we could copy on some of the highlights of the things that we need to remember after the build-along? You know, like we used to do that at the clinics. They used to hand out sheets after we were finished with our clinic.
Well, all right. So that would be a good idea. Greg, you and Bob, you've done these before. How hard would that be? Would that be something that's doable?
Yeah, it'd take a bit of time to put it together, but should be.
Yeah, I think putting, possibly the steps together, you wouldn't want to make it something like an instruction sheet for a particular kit, because that's only going to be valid for that kit. But there are a lot of techniques that, each different model has possibly developed in their own way, and putting together some line items of some of those, especially possibly with some photographs, could be something. I guess the way you would disseminate them is the builders could put together a little package like that, maybe 3, 4, 5 pages of text and photos, send them to you as a PDF, and then they could be put on the website and downloaded by people who are interested in either that particular builder's techniques or something like that.
Well, let me ask you, we've got on the website we've got on the website all of the links
Mhm.
to each one of the build-alongs. So if somebody goes and says, well, Greg Cassidy did this build-along, or if they say Clark Cooning did this build-along, then they can go to our website and they can then link to each one of the segments that Clark Cooning or Greg Cassidy or Bob Farquhar did on their build-along. Now,
Yeah, and
now,
that,
which that on the, I'm not sure what these sheets would have that those segments don't have.
what I think it would do, Jim, and I've run into this sometimes, it would give you something you could have at the workbench to refer to. Most of us don't have a computer at our workbench. Some do, and the number is growing. But sometimes I know I will be watching a video of somebody doing a technique that I really want to try. And while I'm watching it on my computer upstairs, I'll have to take notes and then go downstairs and then try it. And having something you can actually have on your workbench might be what could help them.
So I think there's three different topics here, and you need to think about them separately, like the partition. I think, Greg, you talked about general instructions that are kind of general, and that's going to be, that's interesting, but those kind of almost are not tied to a specific build on. Those are general. I think they're what I'll call notes on the build. So what I found most interesting is it's the notes on what's not in the instruction manual, what's not in the build, what I did this way. How, if you use those sticky roof things, how do you get them to stick down? Because the glue doesn't seem to work very well. And then, with the third thing, I think that's probably almost more interesting, and this is what I was getting to, is what were the three techniques that were demonstrated in that build along? So, Greg, if you went back and looked at your, let's say you do 4 to 6 build alongs, can you look at each one and say, here are the 3 or 4 techniques, cutting techniques, painting techniques? I don't know what's the right way to do it, but Jim, that's what I was getting to. I think part of the problem is, how do you find that cool technique that's buried in a build along that's one of 6 on a page with 40 of them? By the time you get done, there's just too much information to go back and find anything. So you almost have to create an indexing system. I think if you start doing it now, early on, it might be worth saying, so how would you classify techniques? Right? Is it, cutting, gluing, painting? Is it that the way you cut them? Is there some way to say, here's what I did that I think was really interesting that you wouldn't find in the instruction manual and is kind of nice to know as a technique? Because I think that's what you're looking for, Jim, isn't it? Those techniques and how people model.
Absolutely. It's how you overcome the problems. That's what that's really what I'm trying to concentrate on. It's not, how do you take a piece of basswood and glue it to another piece of basswood? That's not what I'm talking about. It's the mistakes that all of us make along the way, and the techniques that we have come up with in our mind that we know works for us, to get past that and still have a really nice model at the end of the day.
If I may step in here, I can be the guinea pig. I already have 4 different models that you and I have discussed here that I'll start building.
Right.
They're already set up in such a way where each model has a master index to the other ones, and there's 4 or 5 bullet items of what I was accomplishing in that model. So one of them is like working with just the roofing and coloring it a certain way. Another one might be looking at the siding. And so I do one with board and bat siding, one with clapboard, one with just straight siding, but they're all colored differently. And that's also noted in the index. So one is colored with markers, one is colored with chalks, one is colored with weathered paint and acrylics. And so I guess what I'm saying is I've already got at least four models set up that I've committed to sharing here on your website. And I'll be happy to throw that out as the guinea pig for people, and you can take that and modify it or do whatever, but at least it provides a framework and a start for that type of thing. I can tell you that I've been doing this for about 15 years, and on the websites where I've done it, I've gotten, well over 5,000 hits at times within a 24-hour period. So it appears to be working.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me come back and say this again. I love this idea. We could easily do that. John, I think we could easily do this on the website. Am I right?
Yeah, you could set up if you wanted to do with a PDF with the highlights and stuff, we can put that as a file to download.
And so we could have, if you're interested in weathering, we could have a whole series of different stuff where they could go and see exactly what's involved with weathering, for example.
Yes. Jim, let me send to the webmaster there, because I haven't set it to him yet, to go on ahead and take a look at the articles, and then he can kind of take a quick read. Maybe that give us a different basis to continue this conversation.
That would be great. And Greg, if I could ask you maybe to think this through a little bit about how you would phrase this, or how I can put something together to send out to the modelers that are going to be doing the build along, so that we get some consistency in what information we're asking them to do and so forth.
Yeah, I guess probably one of the things that would be hardest for each modeler to try to isolate is, what technique does he do that might be a little different from what every modeler does that would be worth noting? It's like you say, you don't need steps on how to glue basswood bracing to basswood siding, but somebody might need a couple of steps on how someone uses some of the specialized weathering paints, maybe some of the stuff made by MIG, or some of the pastels or something. They're not quite as common in the fact that every modeler isn't using them the way that every modeler is using glue and stuff. So thinking about what you do, the modeler, that might be worth actually writing down and disseminating as something that other people might find interesting, is probably the biggest challenge of this. If I go through everything that I've done in all of my builds, 99% of it is pretty standard, but that's to me.
But Greg, I guarantee you, every time you open a new kit, somewhere in your mind, there may be 2 or 3 things that you say, I've got to remember to do this and this and this, because when I've seen this before, I tried to do it that way and made a mistake. Well, whatever those this and this and this are, that's what we're talking about, I think.
Yeah, and the same kind of thing, like Bob said, he typically will change out how he roofs a building, and I do that as well. It's one of the things that's so easy to try something different if you're going for a specific look that the manufacturer wasn't going for. So sometimes, even before you open the kit, what you might do to change it, or what you might have to watch out for when you're building it. So I guess those are the kind of things that someone could write down, and it might be that 9 out of 10 people read that and say, yeah, that's typical, I would do the same, but that 10th person might get something out of that.
Clark, what do you think? You've been quiet so far.
Oh, Clark.
I might, Pat.
Will somebody wake Clark up?
He's been awake on the chat.
I'm here. I'm trying to be a good boy because I don't want to be taking over. Let me put it this way. I think for those who are willing to do it, it would be neat to have like, watch out for this on blah, blah, blah. Watch out for this on a laser kit. That might trick you. But for some of us, like myself, it's just a lot of extra work that I don't want to do.
Well, then, all I can do is ask people to do it. If they don't want to, I understand that, Clark. I really do.
I mean, I try and
I'm asking an awful lot already just for you to build the kit. I understand that.
yeah. Like I would rather try and point it out in the clinic itself. And
Yeah.
that means, yes, you're going to have to go back and review that clinic if you want to pick up that point. But maybe you should have the notebook and me making notes to yourself when you're watching these clinics, just as we do when we're at a regular clinic. You take a little notebook in and go, oh, hey, that's a heck of a good idea. Write it down.
Well, that was the first thought that came to my mind when I said, we're going to have all of these links on our webpage anyway. So
Yeah.
what more are we asking for?
Yeah.
And I agree, we are asking the modeler to more work, and this might turn some modelers off where they say, I just don't want to do it. I mean, that's just too much. That's too much additional work for me to do.
Well, and if you really think about it, I mean, we sort of talked about this, Ted Becker and a few of us were talking about it. It's the same as the actual project. Now, if it's going to go on your layout, you're much more apt to do a build along or a clinic because it's going to go on the layout. If you're just building an abstract, i.e. something that you have some knowledge about, but it's not going to go on a layout, that is taken away 15 hours of actually working on your layout.
Yep, absolutely. And see, that's what I don't want to have. That's what I'm trying to get away from. That's why I'm happy that we've got so many different modelers doing the build along.
That is the bonus, as they say, many hands make light work. So
yeah,
that's very true. So
I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, I think it, like Greg said, yeah, we don't have computers at our workbench and so forth, and I understand that. Okay, well, we'll just have to see how it goes. But Greg, I appreciate any notes you might be able to jot down, and Bob, you too, and Clark, I understand what you're saying, and I'm certainly not going to make it mandatory because I don't want to limit the people that are doing the build-alongs, because I really want the talented modelers to want to do it and to feel comfortable that we're not asking anything out of the ordinary. Ted Becker and I have had many conversations about he doesn't want to do some of the stuff right now because if it's not for his layout, he just doesn't have the time for it. I understand that. I have no problem with that.
One thing I think that might help is if we incorporate those something along the lines of Paul Thompson's quick tips. One thing that I think it was Maureen Hunter brought up a while back was using their stains to weather a car. Well, I bought a couple AccuRail cars and I put them on the track and I'm like, they look brand new. I can't have that. And so I just tried brushing on some Hunterline driftwood stain and let 2 coats, and the thing looked like it didn't look quite brand new, but it looked like it'd been around for a little bit. So, little stuff like that. Because, unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time. So the things that are quick and easy are what works best for me. And I think that probably is a good way to bring those out and present them to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it's something that I ought to be doing. I don't know. I just hate to get involved in everybody's individual build. But what Clark says makes a lot of sense to me. What Ted Becker has told me makes a lot of sense to me. But also, I understand what you guys are saying. I understand what Phil is talking about. I understand what the modeler who isn't doing the build along but wants the information. I understand what they're saying. They just, and frankly, that's the value of having the mentor, because you can ask those kind of questions and you can deal specifically on the subject that you're concerned about. That's the point of having the mentor. How to bring that into the My Build, I think, is the question. I think that really is the nub of the question. Without burdening the modeler who's doing the build and providing as much information as possible to the modeler who needs specific information, that's the challenge, how to do that and convey that information.
So I think Jim put one problem, and Greg hit it really effectively, is if you're doing a how do you build this if you've never built a kit before, you're going to get one kind of process. If on the other hand, you say, what I'm doing is doing a build along for people who understand how to glue strip wood together, then the interesting question actually for the build along modeler to ask is, okay, at this step, if I divide the model into 4 or 6 steps, at this step, what are the 3 or 4 techniques that I do that I think people probably won't have seen before will be unique and different? I think that, Greg, that was what you were getting to, is you almost got to put yourself in the mind of saying, okay, what do I do here that I know people know how to do already? What do I do that's different? Oh, I cut this way because I found that this works really well in building this kind of model. I think it's kind of approaching it that way is probably an interesting way to think about how you approach what you're going to talk to. Again, but it's a different audience. It's probably more this audience that has built a few kits versus an audience of someone who's never built a kit before. Right?
Yeah, you're right, Phil. It's something that, and what you just said made me think of something. I've had a couple people tell me, well, I can't build a craftsman kit. I'm not a craftsman. Well, we know that craftsman kits, it's harder to put together a plastic kit and make it look good than put together a craftsman kit.
Greg, the difference between a craftsman kit and a regular kit is very simple. It's patience. A craftsman does the same thing over and over again, has the patience to keep doing it. Everybody else gives up. I mean, everybody, my argument is everybody can learn the technique. You just have to get enough focus and patience to learn the technique. People aren't, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that was.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think sometimes just the term craftsman kit scares a lot of people off.
Right.
And like you said, once you get them down, there's a lot of basic techniques, and some of us have refined it to where we're a little more patient, we're a little more careful, we might be a little more accurate, but it kind of depends on what you're willing to put up with for yourself, because you're building it for yourself. And
I think, Greg, that's and Phil, I think that's exactly the point. Not all of us are going to build a contest model. There's no need for it. No, there isn't even a maybe need to build an AP model. You want a good model, i.e. for the layout model. And, Al McClellan coined the phrase, good enough in model railroading. And so my theory has always been, if you have a model that's close to the edge, that should be a very good model. Then you have a mid-ground model and a background model. Well, you're really only worried about the exterior a little bit. So, you have to pick and choose where you're going to put your effort in, and how much effort are people willing to learn on here. We do have a few people that want to get their MMR, or they want to get a little better, but for majority, I think they want to build a building and put it on their 4x8 and say, hey, look what I did. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And frankly, that's the audience that I'm shooting for. This is not an AP program. This is not a contest program. This is more modelers building more models. That's what this is all.
And as far as that target audience and what we're doing, I think you're bang on. So that's why that's why we had that long discussion about, some of the other stuff. But I think what all the guys have, I'll call them instructors or builders, have done, has just opened up people's eyes to give them ability to at least attempt to build something. And if it's the old adage, how do you get the Carnegie Hall? Well, you got to practice. So
Yeah.
it's the same in model railroading. People open these magazines like the Gazette and MR, and they go, "Oh, look at this model," or "Look at this. I can probably do that." And lo and behold, you find out it takes a lot of practice to get to that level.
Clark, I think a simple way would be to, as you're going along with the build as you did, and say, I learned this trick as I was building it. I would suggest you write it down, and it might help you out.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta say. Keep it simple.
And Pat, that's a very good point. Just make a point saying, here's a little trick that I use or I've learned or that might help you out. Just so, like you said, maybe make a note of it.
Yeah. That's all you gotta do. Just keep it simple. You don't even have to have the handout sheet.
Yep.
In the bar mills, the idea of using your square and using a couple of strips for the setback to get the point to cut as an easy way, once you establish the length, to get that extra little bit for your cutback was a great tip for how to cut the balls to the right length without trying to measure it.
Right.
And so that was a good little, and so just to some extent, almost identifying those in the video, I think would be good as well. So.
Yeah. Well,
I think that might be the answer. Maybe what I ought to do is talk about note taking when I'm introducing the build alongs each time, so that people know. Because I don't know of a single modeler that builds a lot of models who probably doesn't keep a notepad in his shop. I know I do. I know many other people do. I make notes to myself every time I'm building something about something that I need to try to do something better about or figure something out or something. And I make all kind of notes. So maybe I ought to announce the note taking as part of the introduction to each one of the build alongs. Because the new modeler is probably, the average guy probably has never done that.
It's true.
Jim, there's a place you could add great value is every time you see something that's interesting, you put a note in the chat and say they're Jim's notes, something to take a note of.
Ed, can you let me screen share, please?
Sure. Hold on one second. Wrong button. Too many buttons. All right, try it now.
So, just as Pat said, see, I put this right in my title, helpful hint. Here's another one, helpful hint. I do this other one, it's called tech note. So if you've never heard of a draft angle. So that's how I try and, stimulate the viewer to pick up on these specific points.
And you know what, Clark, you have a little bit of an advantage that I've just been made aware of. You've been teaching these in clinics for quite a while, mostly in person. And so you think of something like that. I've never done any kind of teaching or anything. So when I was showing what I built, I pretty much just showed what I built. It never occurred to me to point out something that was maybe a little unusual or anything, but I can see the benefit of that.
Yeah. And that's true. I mean, I've been doing these, and what we do in Mind with the Masters, we would do a exact PowerPoint presentation like this for the first half an hour of our 5-hour build. And then we would turn the participants loose with their kits, and we would have a total of 4 MMRs working with anybody who had a question or how do I do this with, I remember in the instructions, but you guys said to do this. And so I've been doing it for 25 years.
So do you have
Or more.
Yeah.
do you have a presentation on how to do a presentation?
Actually, I'll tell you who does have one. NMRA X, if you go to their YouTube channel, they have a presentation on presentations.
All right, thanks.
But I have one kind of, I won't say it's anywhere near finished. It was kind of rough, and we actually used it at one of my previous clubs. Matter of fact, Roy's on, and I think I showed one at the Air Mills Club many moons ago about, some of the key things of putting on a presentation. But of course, now with PowerPoint, it's so much easier.
All right, anybody have any other kind of comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about plastic kits for a minute. From what I've seen so far, after following this for a month or so, it's all wood kits, and not too much in the way of kit bashing or kit mingling or adding on to kits with plastic pieces and that kind of stuff, which is probably more what I've been doing than the wood kits. And so I try and modify, if I do a plastic kit, I try and modify it either by paint or by adding things like lighting or by adding a shed or something. Just change it around a little bit so it's not that generic model you see in everybody else's layout. It just modify it a little bit. So what I was going to ask is, if I know it's a Craftsman type thing, but I think there's a great deal of work that's so similar in the Craftsman kit that's in the plastic kits too, and stuff you got to watch out for and things you got to do. And the instructions are not always that clear on things. You got to figure some of the stuff out. So I'm just saying.
You want to build one for it?
Nope. No. No, I'm just saying, the emphasis is all on the wood kits. Maybe we could have some emphasis on some of the plastic kits that are out there and that kind of stuff.
We
Roy,
can.
do you have a kit?
As long as I can find somebody that wants to build them.
Roy, do you have a plastic kit that you're interested in seeing built?
Not right at the moment, and it's a little bit like Clark was saying. I don't know about you guys, but you end up buying all these kits, and think you're going to build them someday. Well, the someday has kind of arrived for me, and I've been building some of those kits. I have stuff for a downtown scene, which I've never got at before. So there's some fairly big ones and that kind of stuff. But I don't have one that I want to build right at the moment.
All right. Are you looking for techniques on, like, saying,
yes, yeah,
make
just
plastic
techniques
look like wood?
What other people have learned, even if it's a discussion, not necessarily a show type of thing. Even it's a discussion, or you can have some buildings that you've done some changes on, or you found out this for this kit, and just how to do plastics better. It might be.
How about you coming on to the My Build with Chris and showing us some of the models that you have built this way and talking about them?
Well, I don't know whether they'd be quite up to your standards.
No, I don't. No. This is part of the problem I think we may be facing. I don't have a standard. I build models.
Yeah.
I build models. This show is about more modelers building more models.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a standard for that. This is not an NMRA show. This is not an AP judging. This is not a contest. This is what we build. This is what modelers who are watching this show are building. That's what the My Build is all about. I don't have a standard.
Okay, so could I ask? I could. I don't know just the time frame I can work in right at the moment, But later on, I could probably put a bunch of pictures together of stuff I've done and show it. It won't be for several weeks, but I could do
Well,
that.
how about one picture of one model on the 29th of May?
Yeah, give me a little more time than that because I got some things going on I have to look after. So yeah, I'll just give you a call or an email, let you know when I got some stuff ready.
That's fine, no problem.
Okay.
But this doesn't have to be you building something and getting a manufacturer involved. This doesn't have to be a build along or anything else. That's why originally, when Chris and I were talking, we agreed we don't have a standard for the models that we show here. They don't even have to be complete models. We want you to be, this is my build. Look what I'm doing here. That's what my build is all about. And it's one photo. Here is my model. I'm building this, and it could be, I don't know, how to do the next part of it, but this is where I am right now.
Well, part of the reason I want to make the comment about plastic models is I know that we are all basically, from what I've seen, concentrating on the wood models, and they're great. They're fantastic. I love building wood kits. And it's just I have an abundance of plastic kits right now.
Well,
so if and they're crossover skills.
Are plastic kits cheaper than quote the wood kits?
Yes, I would say so for the same thing.
Well, even cheaper than plastic is card models. And if you'll notice, we have card modelers now that are going to do build-alongs.
That looks interesting.
So again, it's not. This is not a show for building wood kits. This is a show for model building. This is modelers, more modelers building more models. I don't care what they're made of.
Jim, I think Clark hit it. Any modeler has to make a decision of a trade-off of detail / quality versus time. And a big driver of that is position. Right? Is it at the edge of the layout where it's going to be viewed at a 6-inch viewing distance, or is it a 2-foot viewing distance, or is it a 4-foot viewing distance? And I think one of the things that's interesting is you don't apply the same techniques or materials at each of those points. And so what you choose, and we've just chosen, I think, some things that are in close. I think the card models is a great example. I think plastic is exactly the same way. There's a lot of places where a plastic kit would probably fit perfectly well for what you're trying to carry across. And I think that's the other thing that's an interesting question is, what are you modeling? Are you modeling the construction of the building, or are you modeling the appearance of the building as a completed entity? And those are two very different goals, right? So if you want to build a contest level model, in order to do that, you have to actually build a building that models the construction techniques of the building. And it turns out the only easy way to do that is with wood. So that's why you see primarily wood models there. If on the other hand, you're trying to model a building that has the completed appearance and construction's not what you're trying to model, then you use different techniques. That's where plastic might apply much more effectively. So I think it's and by the way, the visitors relation, I talk about the Blair Mills kit. I opened the Blair Mills kit up, I started looking to do it. And I decided it was never going to be a high quality super model. There. It's a really nice kit, but decided it wasn't worth investing a huge amount of time to put, strip wood around and I'll make it look really good. So just did it very quickly, realizing that wherever I was going to use it was a place where it didn't have to be really important. And by the way, I was going to build a really nice interior and stuff, and I realized it was never going to be within that 2-foot, 2.5-foot zone. So it became a photo interior that's lit up with a little printed, but it looks really good at 2 feet. Actually looks pretty good at 1 foot, but it doesn't look very good at 6 inches. Does that make sense as a thought process?
It does.
So it's, every time you model, I think you choose what you're modeling for, and there are different things you model for. So,
well, I think if I can say, I'm glad Roy brought up plastic models, because one of the things I found, and I found this when I was doing my monthly What's New, is the large conglomerate of small manufacturers that I'm dwelling on are wood kit manufacturers. And that's because it's something that can be kind of done on a small scale in someone's basement. And plastic model kits usually need more of a factory and a large business to do. But I would love to see more plastic models being shown how to build, because I found that I'm very comfortable with all the techniques I've developed with building wooden models, because I do them again and again and again. I have built a number of plastic kits that are on my layout, but I haven't done a lot recently. And I almost get a little scared approaching one of those because I'm not as comfortable, because the techniques are not as ingrained in what I do. And I would love to see more people building plastic kits to kind of refresh. Oh, that's right, this is how you solve that problem, or this is the simple way to do that, stuff like that.
Well, let me
I
ask you
think
this.
we also need to, I think we also need to look at the plastic models because of the 3D printers coming in, and that is potentially making the plastic models out of the, you know, cottage industry potential, because of, you know, those are coming down in cost where it is cost effective.
Yeah, Jim, you know,
Well,
that's an
let me ask you
interesting.
this. Who are the plastic manufacturers of kits?
Well, Fran, that's what
Walters and
wait,
Atlas.
guys, stop. I was going to make a point before we leave the 3D. You know, Fran, who's not on here today, but is often on here, I believe. You know, he actually 3D prints, you know, ON30, ON2 locomotives and makes them, and that might be a real interesting build along for, you know, a 3D printed small locomotive model and how you put it together. I don't know if that would.
Absolutely.
There's very few of us that have 3D printers.
Right,
Yeah.
but he prints it as a kit. So you buy a kit for 40, 50 bucks. You know, I think it's 50, 60 bucks with the drive mechanism. And it's a bunch of flat printed parts that you basically glue together to build the locomotive. So if you haven't, that might be a very interesting and very different kind of build to think about, Jim. Let me have Fran. I'll send a email to Fran and have him connect up with you.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Jim, I have a City Classics company house clinic I can do anytime.
Oh, good.
You
That's
want
good.
Wait a minute. Is that a plastic, Clark?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so who is it? City who?
Come on, you don't know City Classics? They've been around 100 years.
No, Clark.
They do largely industrial buildings.
Clark, if it's not trolley, it's
They do know.
If it's not trolley, oh boy.
Well, we could kit bash one of them into a trolley house, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, this is their, I probably have 20 of their kits sitting here. Because
well, let me ask you this. How do you want to do? You want to do this as a build along, Clark, or just watch me build one of these kits, or how do you want to do this? I don't mind calling them.
Oh, well, I know I could messenger him and I'd have an answer in 2 minutes. So Jim's a friend.
Find out.
I will contact him. We could do a build or no, just here's how I do it clinic.
Could
and then there's enough interest in the structure, we can do a build along.
So if we do the build along, find out what kind of a discount he's going to give us, about 20, 25%.
Huh.
No. That's what I'm getting, Clark. Come on.
Okay.
I'll
talk to him.
Okay, let me know. And then we can get a schedule whenever it's convenient.
Winter.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I got the note here. Winter, no fish. Okay.
It's
all right. So guys, I'm going to stop it tonight and sign off. Let me finish by saying thank you so much for all your comments, by the way, about the build alongs and everything. I really do appreciate that. Hobby shops, let me know. I'm interested in finding more if we can. If we can't, I understand that. So our next Zoom meeting is Wednesday, May the 19th. Our featured modeler is Paul Topas. And Greg, I've talked to him and he is going to be here, no problem whatsoever. So thank you for the recommendation. And we've got special segments with Martin Brettbilt, MMR, on scratch building another car. John Frankfurter is going to watch me build a S-scale bridge. And Paul, or probably Ted, because of Paul's family issue, is going to do our quick tips. So with that said, please visit our website, New Tracks Modeling, for more information on all of the upcoming shows, all of the build-alongs, all of the Watch Me Builds, and all of the hobby shops. Send me an email with any of your comments and ideas for future shows. Thanks again for coming. Really do appreciate it. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much.